Lucas and Jared, I have some interesting news for you guys.
News, you say?
News?
News, I do say. The news is that you guys have heard about the recent dance craze.
Have I?
Yeah,
brand new
Shirley's
dance?
Shredded Shrimp Shuffle.
Oh, yeah, that dance. Yes, of course.
The brand new
Yeah.
dance is called the Cupid's Shuffle. But what's yours?
It's the brand new dance that's called the Shirley's Shredded Shrimp Shuffle.
Oh, nice.
It is sweeping the nation right now, and they reached out to us, the owners of, I guess, the dance, because they're putting on an event that's called the Shirley's Shredded Shrimp Shuffle Super Show. So they gave me this copy to read, so I'm just going to read that real quick. Gotta get in my copy voice.
In your shrimp
You've
voice.
seen it, you've done it, you love it. It's Shirley's Shredded Shrimp Shuffle. Shirley's Shredded Shrimp Shuffle shakes your shoes and shoulders, sending shivers down your spine. Should such a shimmy send you spinning, then the Shirley's Shredded Shrimp Shuffle Super Show should shoot your spirits straight to the sky. This show should shake your soul with a Shirley's Shredded Shrimp Shuffle shimmy floor, competitions in sheep shearing, shipbuilding, sharpshooting, shell cracking, share holding, chutes and ladders, shaving, and shoe shining, a shirt making station, a short list of shifty shady shepherds sheep herding, and one shameless shipwright named Seamus who ships shortcakes to Shanghai. Surely there will be all sorts of shenanigans, shake-ups, and shakedowns at Shirley's Shredded Shrimp Shuffle Super Show. Show up right at 7 for a shovelful of shortening and a free shoehorn. We'll surely see you at the Shirley's Shredded Shrimp Shuffle Super Show.
I can't wait.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. So,
Sounds like a packed event.
yeah, anyway, theme song. And welcome back to Man Cave Movie Night, everybody. I'm Niall.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Niall.
And this week, I'm really excited to talk about our topic, but I have something to share with you guys first that
Oh, I'm excited to hear what this is.
I am feeling weird right now because my friend Benton gave me a pizza with an entire ghost pepper on it, just spread throughout, that I ate 2 hours ago. So I am in active warfare with my body currently. So I
All
just
that means
want
is
to...
Niall's about to hit us with some hot takes.
Exactly. And those hot takes are going to be about trilogies. You've seen them, you love them, you want more of them. Trilogies are sometimes good, sometimes disappointing. And we're going to talk about what and why and maybe even
How to do it.
who
When?
Where?
What?
and how.
Who?
What's going on?
Cares.
Anyway, the thing is, you can't do the who cares joke during the podcast because it makes me not want to talk.
No, I'm not saying no.
Yeah, I'm like, it brings dead air up. But yeah, trilogies. I'm not gonna lie to y'all right now.
Don't ever lie to us.
Yeah.
I would never. I don't know if I'm like entirely on board generally with the concept of trilogies.
Interesting. Maybe that is a hot take for some people.
It's a bit of a hot
Maybe.
take, and here's why. My opinion is, unless the trilogy is planned to be a trilogy like from the start, I feel like a lot of the time what happens is a movie happens, and then they're like, oh, okay, we can make a sequel. And then they make a sequel. Sometimes the sequel's awesome. Sometimes the sequel sucks. But then there's this weird thing that I think happens with studios where they're like, well, it has to be a trilogy. And I'm interested to see kind of where that came from, but I feel like trilogies get pushed really hard for some reason. And so you'll see a third movie of so many things come out that's just kind of like, I don't really care about this anymore, and I don't know why this is happening, you know? So
Sure.
there are trilogies that are amazing, for sure. I think that most of those trilogies were designed to be a trilogy from the beginning, or made by a filmmaker who's just making 3 independent movies that are great that just also happen to kind of be carrying a story on. So
that knows how
that's
to do it.
that's my immediate feeling about trilogies.
I think mine is the same.
Oh.
I think so often you get a good standalone that shouldn't even have a sequel, and then it
Yeah.
gets it
2
becomes
sequels.
a franchise, you know.
Yeah.
So I think trilogies have tended to be the round like number. I know it's not a round
Yeah.
number, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, it is a
sure.
round number.
Yeah, it's
I guess.
got the 2
There's
bends
no
in it.
decimals.
Yeah. I
No
suppose.
decimals?
It's just not an even
Yeah.
number, but yeah, it's a
Well, and
nice
it's got the 2
rule.
round
It's a
parts.
nice odd number. That's a prime number. And
True.
I think
4th
maybe
number in the
that
Fibonacci
trend
sequence.
was started by Star Wars, right? Or
Yeah, I was gonna
it
say,
probably
is that
came
where it
around
started?
that time, and then
Yeah.
you start seeing like trilogies like Jurassic Park is a great one that falls into that category you were talking about, Niall. First
Yeah.
one, perfect. Second one, oh, okay, like
Fine.
we made a sequel. Third one, you're like, okay, let's
going
let's
on?
made
end it
another
right there.
sequel.
Let's be done
Yeah.
right there.
And then we got the Jurassic
got-
World trilogy.
yeah, we got 3 more. Or you
I
know,
still
the
can't
new-
believe that there's even a third one,
right.
with how bad the second one was.
Well, it's Fallen Kingdom and then
Dominion.
Forgotten
Dominion.
Realms or whatever. Oh, okay.
Jurassic World
Forgotten
Dominion.
Realms, a D&D themed Jurassic Park. But yeah, so that's definitely my thought. I think there's so many good examples of when it's done bad.
Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
No, I'm
No.
just kidding. Good trilogy.
Back to the
Wow.
Future rules.
that's a great trilogy.
And I like the third one. I know that there's complaints about the third one, but I like the third one.
Yeah, I like it as well. And maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit. But
Could
there
be.
are other trilogies that are very interesting, like the Before Sunrise trilogy, where having it as, you know, a sequence of movies really builds upon it. It's about the same 2 people, you know, meeting up like 10 years apart, and in real time, 10
It's
years have
actually
gone
10
by
years have passed, yeah.
since the movie was made. And so, like, I mean, they might keep going with those. I think it's right around the time where they would announce a new one.
Oh, has it been another 10 years already?
Yeah, it was about, I think it was like 2015.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think it was like 95, 2005.
Wait, I thought the third one ended with them both being torn apart by wolves. Or was that a different movie?
It's a
Well,
famously controversial scene. It's debated of whether
Yeah.
or not that's a dream sequence.
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
this one might start with,
The fourth one. Okay, it's
Yeah.
just Ethan Hawke.
I'm concerned because I think they're running out of times of the day.
Ah, that's a good
that
point
is,
because they
that's
already
probably when
did
they'll run out.
before
Yeah.
before midnight. Is that one of them?
Before sunrise, before midnight, or it's not before it's before sunrise.
I thought it was before for all of them.
Is it before for all of
Yeah, I think it's the
I
before.
thought
Maybe
it was
it's
after
maybe the next
sunset.
one will be called Before Breakfast.
Before breakfast, and then before lunch and before dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's one
that's
of the
the next
greatest
trilogy.
trilogies of all time, by the way, is
Right
Breakfast,
there.
Lunch, and Dinner.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Some argue that it could be a duology or a quadrilogy, but for now it's a trilogy.
No, it's a trilogy.
Yeah.
The people that argue otherwise are nutritionists or idiots.
That's
Lucas, did you have any thoughts on this?
yeah, so I really
My
love
man's
your
got a
perspective.
trilogy in the background.
I really do. I have.
He does.
Let's see. We have Fellowship right here, and then we have Two Towers, and then you can't see it, but just out of frame is Return of the King. This poster.
You
And then
should have
there's
put them
even a
up
map.
out of order.
Oh, that would that would have killed me. I would not have been able to survive one single day with that. If I'd put 2 first and then 1 and then 3, like, ugh. Or 3 and then 1.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, so I think that, you know, movies in and of themselves, for the most part, are structured in 3 acts. A beginning, a middle, and an end. And so a trilogy of different movies in theory, can work in the same way, which is very advantageous because there's not a single movie out there that doesn't follow the 3-act structure. And if they do, it's just a modification. Like, if it doesn't, it's just a modification of it. Sometimes there's just, like, for example, Return of the King follows the 3-act structure twice, where it does it 2 times. It's such a long movie that they just basically do the same thing twice in terms of having a 3-act structure. Alien has 2 third acts, which is kind of cool. And there's like certain instances where it kind of breaks the mold, but for the most part, movies exist in 3 acts. And so trilogies, when planned well, also work in 3 acts. You know, Lord of the Rings is an excellent example of that because all 3 of them were filmed at the same time as though they were one movie and then divided, not even based on where the books end as well, based on where they thought the stories for each, you know, act should end and then pick up for the beginning of the next one. So in that regard, I love the idea of a trilogy and I hate the idea of forcing it, like you guys were saying, but also trying to add on to a trilogy. So, you know, most recently we've had, you know, Thor 4 and Indiana Jones 4 and 5 and things like that, where it's like in theory Matrix 4 as well, yeah, which was terrible. But not
We've
that, you know, 2 and
Jason
3 were that
Bourne,
great
4
either.
and 5.
Yeah, we do. Yep, Jason,
Awful.
because the first 3 are
That's
awesome.
real.
The first 3 would be like hailed as one of the best trilogies.
That's
I
one
think
of the
right.
greatest.
Yeah, it's-
And now
really,
it's
really
just
well
kind of
done.
like, yeah, but
You know what's
then
crazy?
there's a couple more.
That like the Bourne trilogy, that the music from the Bourne movies, you can pretty much just pull that up into your head immediately. That cello thing. And it's like, yeah, exactly. And there are not a lot of movies that aren't like big franchise things. And I guess the Bourne movies now kind of are a big franchise thing
Well,
because of those
kind of,
sequels.
yeah.
Kind of.
But it's like big franchise stuff is where you can like pull that song up immediately. Not like a spy movie, you know? That song is so good. Anyway, sorry. I keep getting sidetracked. I'm a little disoriented because of this ghost pepper, I think.
Is it still just throwing you off?
A little. I'm not in the spice anymore, but
Well,
my
hey,
body
I-
just feels weird.
On Hot Ones, Sean Evans says it creates a bit of a high. So maybe
Oh,
you're
interesting.
Maybe that's
this
it.
is
Yeah,
you're stoned bile.
They do be acting a little loopy. Stoned bile. So, yeah, I think before we really get into our questions, I think it's obvious which trilogy is my favorite. It's probably your favorites as well. We got Lord of the Rings, obviously, just such a perfect example of a trilogy done well, planned from the very beginning, obviously adapted from books, but for me, close second in terms of trilogy would be the Star Wars original trilogy. Those are a good example of stories that were somewhat thought out, but then developed further as they got greenlit for more stories.
Mm-hmm.
So
What about the greater Star Wars trilogy?
the sequel trilogy?
No, prequels, original, and sequels.
Oh, interesting.
You watch all 3
Whoa,
of
that
those
third
sets
act
as
really
one
sucks.
movie.
Yeah, that third act is pretty bad.
Third act fan
Honestly,
fiction.
but truly, like if they would have stuck with this Skywalker, like actual Skywalker family, that could be
Yeah.
a really cool trilogy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
another
The
yep,
setup, the
Totally.
like,
the child and the grandchild.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you know, we'll talk. I'll if you get me going, I'll talk all day about how we could have made those better or
Yeah.
how they
You'll
just
talk
made
about it
the
in the
incorrect
car.
choices. But at the end of the day, yeah, I will. At the end of the day, we got what we got, and you know, sometimes movies are made poorly, and so that's the case with that trilogy. And let's talk about good trilogies for a little bit before we talk
Can't
about
wait.
some more bad trilogies.
Can't wait. Let's
Well,
just list them
Lucas,
off.
If
Never mind.
this was something that I was thinking is there's 3 of us. We could make
We're a trilogy.
we are a trilogy. I'm
We
the
are a
middle
trilogy.
one.
Yeah, I'm the second one.
You're
I was the
both
one that was
second one?
forced.
Yeah, we're both the second one.
So am I the
Yeah.
first and third?
Yeah,
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
that's how trilogies work.
And then, yeah, and Jared and I were both the ones that the studio was like, we got to make another one because that first one was so successful.
And then it
they
came
made
back.
us, and people were kind of like, and then they made the third one, and people were like, all right, it's just a rehashing of the first one.
I see.
Lucas,
yeah. That makes sense.
Well, never mind. I was thinking we could make our trilogy of trilogies, our trinity of trilogies, maybe even.
Oh, interesting.
I
The
love
big
it.
three of
A
threes.
Triforce of Trilogies.
Our Triforce of trilogies may be with you.
Triforce.
So I'm going to plant my stake in Lord of the Rings, so you guys have to come up with your own.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
That deserves to be on the list.
Yes,
does.
it does.
Now, I want to say and speak my love really quick for the Back to the Future trilogy. I don't think it should go on here because I think there are better ones. However, the first one was great. The second one took the first one and created such a great sequel that was woven with the first one. And then the third one, why it gets so much crap, I think, is because of how good the second one is as a sequel.
Interesting.
But I think both second and third, they go to a new time period to explore. And so it still works really well for me as a trilogy, right?
Yeah.
And I think when they made the first one, they were greenlit to make a sequel, and they were like, let's make a trilogy, right? The
So they
first
made
one
two more.
ends in a contained way where they, sail off into the sunset. Their car flies like at the end of Grease. And
Yeah, or Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
yeah, or Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And then the second one,
Is that actually how Grease
it
ends?
ends with Doc getting struck by lightning in the DeLorean and being sent away, and it's a big
I forgot about
cliffhanger.
that, yeah.
So then they're like the story does continue, and so I feel like it was still well thought out and well planned all the way through.
Totally.
I like
Now-
the third one as
And
well.
they visit the three great time periods, which is past, future, and Wild West.
Yeah, it's past, present, future, and Wild West.
Well, I guess, present, I suppose, is also in there.
Past, they visit present, past, present, future,
future.
dark present,
Yeah, dark present,
past,
present, and
Wild
then
West. Yeah.
Oh, do they
And
go
then
straight
back to
from
present.
past to the way
Yeah.
past?
Yeah,
I
so
have
they're
not watched
still
2
in-
and 3 in a long time.
Yeah, they're still in 55 because Doc was in the DeLorean that they had, and he goes to the past. And so he stashes it in a
Right.
cave.
Interesting.
And so
Yeah,
in,
man.
Oh, yeah,
immediately
yeah,
in the
yeah.
timeline, it's in that cave.
And then they push it with the train, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
at the end, yeah.
So
It's great.
we can maybe
Yeah, I
say that the Back to the Future trilogy is the empty space in the middle of the Triforce.
Oh, I see. Cool, yeah.
That's great.
That's I love that.
Well, I was going to throw out that even I wanted to say that the one I'm going to put up on the pedestal of best trilogies. I think I like the Back to the Future third installment more in that trilogy than I do the Dark Knight trilogy, which is what I'm going to say is mine.
Yeah.
I don't like the Dark Knight Rises that much.
Interesting.
I think it's like pretty mid coming off of the first two, which are perfect.
Yeah.
Right? And people can say the same about Back to the Future, but it just doesn't, it's never landed for me. I
Yeah.
don't know what that is,
Yeah.
but I do think it tells a great story all the way through. I hope
sure.
that's,
Yeah, and there's a lot
That's
of...
totally
that's my
fair.
hop take.
Yeah,
my hot
that's fair. There's a lot, obviously, that was affected by Heath Ledger's
death of Heath
untimely
Ledger.
passing.
Well, and there's
But
also something to be
They
said
still,
for the
I
fact
still do
that
like Dark Knight Rises, but yeah, it is
yeah,
hard.
it was not a planned trilogy. It wasn't even a planned sequel.
No.
Batman Begins was supposed to be a one-off, and then the fans were so excited about the Joker tease at the end, and the studio was so excited about the fans' excitement.
And the
They were
money that it
basically
made.
like, "Hey, make another one." And Christopher Nolan was like, "Fine." And then made the best superhero movie ever made. So
Facts. dude.
that was why I put
So
that
true.
addendum onto what I was saying about the trilogy thing, is that it either needs to be planned out well or made by someone who
Knows.
can just
Yeah,
make
who's-
good
Yeah,
movies.
absolutely.
You know,
That means-
and that's Christopher Nolan for sure.
Christopher Nolan and Robert Zemeckis with Back to
Yeah.
the Future.
Yeah,
Totally.
Robert Zemeckis. He's got nothing
Robert
but a
Zemeckis, two of the
perfect,
greats.
yeah, perfect track record for Robert Zemeckis.
So we got Lord of the Rings on there. We got the Dark Knight trilogy.
There are no other good
I don't know.
trilogies.
I feel like
That's it.
well, there are.
You could say-
There are. Is there a third Angry Birds movie?
I think
Is
it's in
there a
development.
second?
Yeah, there's a second one. There's
mean,
not a third
duh.
Boss Baby yet. So
There's
I
a third
can't
How
say
to Train Your
that.
Dragon. Those are great.
There's a third How to
There's
Train
a
Your
third
Dragon.
Godfather, which I've heard are pretty mid.
Yeah.
Shrek isn't a trilogy anymore.
The
True.
the Planet of the Apes trilogy is very
Star
good.
Wars.
The Matt
Yeah,
Reeves one.
no. Here's the thing. I'm probably gonna
There's
say
a third Fantastic Beasts.
I'm probably gonna say
Ooh.
Star Wars
Original trilogy.
original trilogy.
Yeah,
just
fair.
because like it's super influential.
Guardians
I mean,
trilogy.
However,
Take the 3-act structure. I mean, all 3 of those movies are perfect. You know,
yeah, they're really great.
it's great.
Um,
The Mummy
I
trilogy.
just feel like there's probably a cooler one to say. Like, isn't there a third Night at the Museum, or are there only 2?
There are 3. The Homecoming trilogy, the Tobey Maguire trilogy.
What's the wait?
the
What's
Men in
the
Black
third Night at the
trilogy.
Museum?
I don't know.
Because the second one's the Smithsonian.
Yeah, before sunset,
Night at the Mall of
before
America.
before sunrise, before sunset, before midnight. That's the trilogy. It is before. All 3 of them are before.
Oh, okay.
Night at
Cool.
the Mall of America is funny.
That's the 4th one.
Oh man. Okay, Star Wars original trilogy. I mean, how do you get better?
Yeah,
than that?
really. It's
You
good.
don't.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
the
mean, we're
Santa
not
Claus
competing.
trilogy.
Again, this is our.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, true.
The Tim Allen
Yeah.
Santa Claus
True.
trilogy. Technically not a
Claus trilogy
trilogy
is
because
really
they followed
good.
it up with
How
the
about
TV
the?
show.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
the one that's on Netflix, like the Christmas Chronicles or something with Kurt Russell?
Oh, yeah.
Aren't there 3 of those now?
Maybe. There's 2 for
yeah.
sure.
I know there's 2 for sure.
The
yeah,
Never-Ending
but-
Story has 2 sequels. That's crazy. I didn't know
I also
that. The Blade trilogy,
Never-ending
Blade 2 and
story.
Blade Trinity. The Wolverine
Blade
trilogy,
Trinity.
X-Men Origins, The Wolverine and Logan.
That's not a trilogy.
What do you mean?
it's no, it's not.
It's the Wolverine trilogy.
Yeah,
You could
I'm gonna
say the
say Star
Iron Man
Wars,
trilogy.
and we can
Iron
move
Man
on.
trilogy?
I do love the Iron Man
know you love that
trilogy
one.
so much.
You could
Oh, I love
say
that.
the
Honestly,
Cars
Captain
trilogy.
Guardians
America
of the
trilogy is
Galaxy
really good,
trilogy.
too.
Cars trilogy. Now we're just
Cars-
naming trilogies.
Yeah,
Oceans
what other
trilogy.
These are
trilogies
some
are there?
honorable
The
mentions
Narnia
and
trilogy?
dishonorable.
Narnia
mentions.
trilogy.
Evil Dead trilogy. Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead
Um,
2, and Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
The London...
Is there a third Croods movie?
Maybe.
Oh, soon to be Paddington.
True.
Oh yeah,
That could be a
Paddington
good one.
in Peru.
The Wonka
That'll
trilogy.
be a good trilogy. Hush, that's not a trilogy. That's just 3 different movies about Willy Wonka.
Yeah, but
What
that
about
counts
the-
as a trilogy.
The Oppenheimer trilogy.
Yeah, because it's
Oh,
basically
yeah.
3 one-hour movies.
Pearl Harbor.
No,
and then
no.
Oppenheimer. Well, Pearl Harbor is the first movie. Oppenheimer
setup.
is a sequel to Pearl Harbor.
That is true. Yeah.
And then you've got Oppenheimer,
You've
And
got
then-
you've got Pearl Harbor,
and then Blackberry.
and then you've got Saving Private Ryan.
oh,
and then
right.
you've
Saving
got
Private
Oppenheimer.
Ryan. Yeah,
Oppenheimer.
you're right.
Interesting.
You're right.
There
And
is
then Godzilla.
probably a Dunkirk trilogy because Dunkirk and Darkest Hour came out the same time. But is there another movie about Dunkirk?
Almost certainly.
Maybe 1917.
I bet that there's a movie out there called The Battle of Dunkirk.
Probably.
Probably. on the History
So,
Channel.
you know, we've named some great trilogies. We've just created our Triforce of trilogies with the little glue.
We almost had a Fantastic Four trilogy, but The Rise of the Silver Surfer didn't perform well.
Well, it's kind of a trilogy in that there are 3 movies of Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Fantastic. But so
Which does not really have a 3-act structure. It's just kind of
It's just-
things
it
happening.
doesn't- It
has
really
it's a one-act structure.
It's
and
a
that is
one-act
the setup.
That's like the
It's
New
the
Mutants
introduction
movie.
of the characters. Bro.
The New
Ugh.
Mutants movie feels like a pilot for a bad TV show, and it just ends, and you're like, oh, I'd like to watch the rest of that season, or I'd like to just be interested in anything else that happens. But yeah, there's plenty of that. Well, that's actually
Yeah.
a good point. I think there's plenty of superhero movies that exist now to just set up trilogies or try to set up trilogies.
Yep.
And fail after the first or second, and so they don't actually end up. Well, I don't know if getting to is the right word, but they don't do it. So Shazam
Yeah.
will not end up being a trilogy. Aquaman won't end up being a trilogy.
Yeah, ain't no way.
Blue Beetle won't end up being a
Beetle
trilogy. Blue Beetle
Blue
might.
Beetle
That's true. The
could.
Flash will not. Were there any?
Blue
other
Beetle's like one of the most successful. I think it's like number 4 on box office right now
of all
like
time.
all time.
Of all time ever, every movie.
Yeah.
Dang.
Blue Beetle. It came out August 18th.
Well, you could consider Shazam 2, Flash, and Blue Beetle as a trilogy of underperforming
Failed DC.
DC movies that came out in the year 2023. And maybe it'll be a quadrilogy with Aquaman.
Another trilogy I need to shout out really quick. The Cornetto trilogy.
Of course.
Edgar Wright.
Yes.
Of course.
That is powerful. And also more of a trilogy than you think, because like it's not just the same cast. There's also similar themes throughout all of them of kind of like the one against many type like story structure, and the character development that happens in all of them is like kind of similar, kind of happens in different ways, but they all kind of have other things that connect them other than just the cast and like how it's put together. So that's like, I want to make a case. I know we've talked about it a couple of times on the podcast and said like they call it a trilogy, but it's not really, but also like it really is.
It kind of
It's
is.
not
Yeah,
really, though.
It's a non-traditional.
Yeah,
But not really, huh, Lucas?
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's not really a trilogy.
Yeah,
Jared
you're
convinced
right.
me.
It's not.
So, fun little shout out to Edgar Wright. Our shout out to Edgar Wright. I was at a Beck concert a couple weeks ago. Do you guys know who Beck is? He's a
I don't
performer.
know who Beck
Edgar
is.
Wright directed a music video for him.
He did. You're right. And also, Beck songs have been in a few Edgar Wright movies.
Yeah, Scott Pilgrim
including
versus the
Scott
World.
Pilgrim.
Sex Bomb songs are Beck songs.
Exactly. So, given this context, my friend Jake Nybo and I, shout out to Jake.
Oh, I thought you were calling me your friend. Like, given this context, my friend.
Given this context, my
and
friend.
then you were going to
no.
continue.
So we were at this Beck concert, right? And I look over, and there's this man, and he is the spitting image of Edgar Wright, to the point where I was distracted by him being there. I was seriously like, is this Edgar Wright? Did he come to this
Did he have
Ogden,
the-
Utah?
did he have the
He
tooth
had
gap?
everything. Like, from the profile, like, at first, when I glanced over at him, he was probably like 10 feet away from me, and I was just shocked. I was just thinking Edgar Wright is at this Beck concert in Utah for some reason. The hair, the beard, the face, like even his
Did you
body.
get him to talk?
No, I wasn't close enough to like talk to him. But he was like across this little barrier, so I had a good view of him. But because of that, I couldn't like talk to him or interact with him, get him to look at me or anything. But like I told Jake, I was like, dude, Edgar Wright is right there. And he looks over, he's like, what? And at first he believed it because it just looked so much like him. It wasn't him because we eventually did see him walking around. I was like, okay, yeah, that's not him. But it was pretty cool because for a second I thought that I had met or seen Edgar Wright at a Beck concert in Utah.
That is cool.
Wow.
I like the idea that Edgar Wright would go to a Beck concert and like have like okay tickets.
Yeah, yeah.
Like be kind of far back in the
Well, that was the other
Yeah.
thing is that I know he's been going to Beck concerts, or he had gone to one recently, and he was backstage, and so I was like, oh, maybe he'll like leave, and he was just in the crowd, and then he's gonna go backstage and hang out with Beck. But you know,
Could
I
be.
created this false
Maybe.
narrative. Anyway, trilogies are so good to watch and consume.
If we had to define what's a post-credit conversation, I think that's my new
that
definition.
whole thing
That
just
whole-
was.
Yeah. We gotta,
a good story, though.
We gotta
I like
throw
it.
some bones in for the non-payers.
If you want more like that,
more titillating
stick around
stories
to our
about
Patreon.
potentially
Okay.
meeting a false Edgar Wright, then yeah, it's pretty
Well, we've got 3 questions still.
cool. We do.
Can't wait.
And I'm gonna start off because we talked about good trilogies, and so I'm
We
gonna
have a
talk
trilogy
about
of questions left.
what makes a good trilogy, and why do you think trilogies are so good when done well? We kind of talked about that second half of that question, but what do you think makes a good trilogy? I guess.
I think it has a lot to do with the what we've already talked about with sequels, which is just take the character to a new place. Something that is a new experience for them, is a new challenge for them. That's your sequel, right? But then the trilogy, the third, the threequel of it, I want that movie to be a place where they can take what they've learned in the first 2 and use that to solve the issue of this final movie. If you have moments that just call back to earlier things or unresolved things in the first 2 movies that seemed insignificant that then you reveal, no, this was a really important thing. Just something that makes this movie feel like the other 2 movies were building up to it. Even if they weren't initially, you can find parts of your story to turn into setups for something else. You always can. And so I think that for me, in order for it to be satisfying, it needs to feel like it's connected the lessons learned from the other movies and turned those into the solutions of third movie problem. The Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy is a great example of this. Kind of like first movie, they have just this little tease about like what's going on with Rocket's backstory, and then they don't really talk about it very much again. But then the third movie talks a lot about it and kind of shows you like, no, this was the focus. And with James Gunn, that was the plan all along. But it makes the other thing, sorry to just ramble so much.
No, you're good.
The third movie should make the first and second better.
Yeah, totally.
Because you go back and you watch them and you think, oh, okay, that's really cool. I see how that factors in later. Where I think a lot of the time it's high stakes because you make a third movie that's not good and it makes the first two less enjoyable.
Yeah.
Or like the greater Star Wars trilogy,
which makes...
it honestly kind of saps out some of the joy of the other Star Wars movies for me because I dislike the sequel trilogy. So it's something that you have to be really careful about, but if you do it right, it should make all of the movies better.
Totally. That's a great way of putting it. And even in, especially like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars come to mind, because with Star Wars, and to an extent with all three of the Star Wars trilogies, you know the third movie is when they're going to really resolve the conflict of how do you defeat the villain. And that is one thing that I did like about Last Jedi, is that it changed from how are they going to defeat Snoke to how are they going to defeat Kylo Ren, which I liked.
And then they just
swept
that off the table.
Didn't do that.
Once again, just real quick, The Last Jedi say what you will about it. It set up a really good third movie, and then they just totally ruined it.
It set up a unique third movie, if nothing else. Unique from episode 6. Because episode 6, I think, did it really well, where it's doing that thing with, they're going to defeat Darth Vader. The Emperor is kind of just a presence, but somehow Luke is going to become a Jedi and Darth Vader is going to be defeated. It's just a question of how. And with Lord of the Rings... will return. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah,
he's died before.
Yep. And with Lord of the Rings, the whole entire thing is, getting to Mount Doom and chucking the ring and defeating Sauron. And it takes 3 movies to get there. And so I think that is something that can help a trilogy a lot, is if it starts from the very beginning and the story is going to take 3 movies. Yeah. There are great... simple
through line.
Exactly. And there are great trilogies that don't have that are just 3 really well-made movies that are connected, like Back to the Future and like even Indiana Jones, that are just a character, really, or a couple of characters that you follow, and it's their stories, not as much the story, if that makes sense. But even with the prequel trilogy, I thought that concluded well, because in theory, when those movies started, you're like, okay, how does Anakin become Darth Vader? And so that's how it ends, and it answers all the questions really you could have had from
another good example of a third movie that makes the first 2 better.
Exactly.
Like Phantom and Attack of the Clones are not the best.
Not
but the third one makes you see these little kind of eggs that are in the first 2 that are like, oh, that's kind of setting up Anakin's evolution. And it really, like, knowing that third one makes the first 2 way better than they actually are.
Yeah. And the other thing is, with Phantom Menace as well, there's an argument to be made that you can cut that out and miss nothing. Because I really like a lot of parts about Phantom Menace. However, Qui-Gon and Darth Maul, the main protagonist and the main antagonist, both die. And so then you're left with Anakin and Obi-Wan, they're introduced at least, but they're not really the biggest players. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, they become the main characters in the next 2 movies. I don't know. That's a whole other thing. But
then you wouldn't have
Qui-Gon...
No, don't cut Qui-Gon.
Were you going to say it?
No. I want to hear what you have to say.
I thought we were going to say the same thing, and I was going to be shocked. If you cut Qui-Gon, then you wouldn't get like the end of Obi-Wan, the show.
Oh, true.
We wouldn't have
tragic. We wouldn't have gotten.
Well, they did cut Qui-Gon.
Well, they impaled.
Cut him in half.
No, that's Darth Maul.
Oh, shut up. They cut Darth Maul in half. They impaled Qui-Gon. I'm sorry. I was going to say,
funny,
if
though.
they cut that movie out, then you wouldn't have pod racing, which was the main source of my personality for multiple years of my life.
Yeah, that's fair.
True.
So I'm grateful that it came out.
Or Jar Jar,
personally,
which
but-
is my first
Jar Jar.
word.
and less
And
word.
it will be my last.
And last.
Do you say it every night before you go to bed just in case you die
I
in your
die.
sleep?
I should start doing that. That way, in my obituary, you guys can write, because you'll have to write my
He said Jar
obituary.
Jar.
He said Jar Jar. Those were his
I'm so
final
glad
words.
that we're going to be in charge of that.
Yeah, won't that be
that's-
so
that's
awesome?
nice for
That'll
you
be
to give
great.
us that, right?
Succeeded by Niall Thorley and Jared Cooksey.
Authors of this obituary.
we are your family, remaining family.
Oh, man.
One more.
What do you think, Jared? Oh,
Well, I was just
No,
going to
go,
say
Lucas has
you
more
go
to
ahead
say.
and give me one more thought.
my one more thought is the three trilogies of the first three phases of MCU, because obviously Marvel is full of trilogies, some of them good, some of them bad. We had Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man, all
Yeah.
got trilogies in MCU Phase 3, which you could, if you really were stretching, you could try and say those were a trilogy, but I don't know. 3 acts, I guess, still. But I think that each of them has its faults and its what it succeeds and does well at, but none of them have a through line. I think Captain America is the best overall. I think Thor has the best third, and I think Iron Man has the best
Iron Man
start.
has the best through line. Iron Man has the best.
Honestly,
through
I
line.
would agree that Iron Man does have the best through line because Tony Stark's character stays the most consistent and his arc is the most interesting, I would say. But I do Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite Marvel movies, and then I think all 3 Captain America movies are really
Yeah,
consistently
I
good.
guess Iron Man, the first Iron Man is the best Iron Man, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The second Captain America is the best Captain America,
Yep.
in my opinion. And the third Thor is
yeah.
the best Thor.
Maybe
So you
that's
can
its
create a
own
little-
little
yeah, it's its
trilogy.
own
I don't have to say in my opinion there.
Well, and
Yeah,
and the
no,
nice
that
thing
is.
is with there being a 4th Captain America movie, there will be certainly the Steve Rogers trilogy and then the Sam Wilson trilogy of Captain America. So even though it's
You think
technically
they're gonna
We'll
make a
see if we get
trilogy?
there.
I'm-
Yeah.
I think
Like,
I think Marvel's gonna have to restructure before they get a third one of those out.
I'm sure they will make a third of
I
those. I'm sure they
low-key-
want to. Who knows if they
I
it'll
don't
actually
think
happen.
that Secret Wars is gonna come out.
Dude, the more days that pass, the more I kind of think
I
you're
think
right.
I think that Disney is going to announce we're
Giving up.
rebooting. I think they're going to reset the Marvel Cinematic.
I think they would do
Universe.
that
They're gonna
with
try
Secret
again.
Wars, though.
Here's what I want them to do. I want them to stop the Marvel Cinematic Universe and then just say we're going back to just isolated superhero movies for a while.
I don't see it happening. There's no shot that
No,
happens.
no way. But that's what I want.
Oh, okay. Well, you can want that. You just won't have your wish.
I
granted.
feel like that would make people more excited.
I
because it would
do.
be
I
more
do
stuff
see a
like
soft
The
reboot
Batman.
happening after Secret Wars, though, where somehow there's an incursion or whatever, and some of the heroes are dead and blah blah blah. Whatever. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's 8
Anyway,
years away.
trilogies.
Trilogies. Jared, did you have?
Well,
some
it's
thoughts?
infinity years away because it's never going to come out.
Nice.
Infinity years.
So, to build off of what Lucas was saying like 5 minutes ago, which is when I was going to jump in.
Sorry, I just really
No,
like
you're
hearing
great.
the sound of my own voice.
I
do
it's
too.
okay. So our audience does too.
The sound of your voice.
They like to hear the sound of their own voices.
Yeah. That's
That's
why
why they're listening
to
to this. They talk in. They get a
Yeah,
word in
They,
edgewise every now and
they
then.
do.
us. Whenever there's dead air
Of
that's
frustration.
our-
They're like,
our
"Bah,
listeners.
move on, shut up."
Jared, what do you have to say?
So I think the first movie with any trilogy should start with a promise to the audience of this is where this character will end up.
This is where the
Right.
fun begins.
Like Luke Skywalker holding that lightsaber for the first time, and it's foreign to him, and then you come in at the end of 6 or Return, right?
yeah.
And he is a master of it. He is the best Jedi that's ever lived at that point, right? You have, I think, if the Spider-Man trilogy kind of ended better than it did,
The Tobey
you
Maguire
would've-
one?
Tobey Maguire one, you would have had this promise of this superhero who needs to learn how to use his powers. Second movie, he is an established hero now. So that first movie's his introduction. Second, he's established, but he's having a hard time balancing things. Third movie, this is what they
He's
were doing.
there.
He is a hero. He's known to the people, and when he ends, like that movie, his legacy is cemented, right? Batman
Totally.
Dark Knight trilogy does the same thing. And so I think we've talked a lot about everything else that goes into it. But the way I like to look at it as a standalone trilogy is what promises were made and did we land? Did we receive that payout at the end, right?
I love
did
that.
it land? So that's my take.
Love
It's a
it.
good cake. Yeah,
I think
I
that's
love
the
it.
best one.
Well, let's give the audience the time to.
Yeah, so now you guys talk about what
Yeah,
makes
what do you-
what
what
makes
do
a
you
trilogy
think?
good.
You and your
We'll give
crappy
you
little breaking
45
down car.
minutes.
My car is so much nicer than yours.
45 minutes?
What do you have
Is that
to
how
say?
long we should give them?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
I'm gonna
That's
have
an
to stop you
interesting-
right
yeah,
there.
that's kind
I'm
of,
gonna have to stop you right
Yeah,
there.
I think
don't know
that
about
you're
that.
wrong.
Yeah.
Lucas was already kind of saying that earlier.
Yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
really
well,
like it.
Really,
he,
you're
he
copying
said it, but he
us
said
on
it
that
kind of
one.
better. You can reach out to us on Instagram, and we can tell you more fully why you're wrong.
Yeah, we'd love to do that.
It's I will say this is not super related to trilogies, but it's fun because I'll have friends of mine who will say, I don't really like keep up to date on current pop culture stuff, but I like listening to your guys' opinions, because then if the subject comes up, I just adopt your opinion and regurgitate it and then act like I'm a
Perfect.
part of the conversation without even
Perfect.
having to consume the media. I'm like, dude, that's pretty cool. And he
Yeah.
says it works.
That happened to me last night. My roommate's in a fantasy football team, and he told me like a snippet of what was happening in the Jets game last night. They're like, and then I went to work and someone was talking about it. I was like, yeah, and Aaron Rodgers out in like the first play. Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy?
he had 4 plays, and he's out for the
Are
season.
you kidding me? And then the BYU guy gets in there. Come on, we want real players, not BYU players.
And
know,
you guys are
whatever.
like,
like,
"Oh, this is a
oh,
guy I'd
Yeah,
get a
this
beer
is
with."
football. Like, I haven't heard or watched a football game in like
Since the
a
Super Bowl.
week since I was at one last.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Sure.
On
I guess this
Saturday.
weekend. But
I'm in a fantasy football league this year, and I was it's with my family, and I said I'm really excited for this because I've prepared by not watching a single football game for like the last 5 years of my life. So
Auto
I'm
draft
pretty
on.
excited. Yeah. Oh no, I drafted, and I don't think that I did well. Anyway, I've got a question for y'all.
Let's hear a question from you.
yeah,
This is a hypothetical one.
Interesting.
This is a pitch type question. Imagine, if you will, a trilogy. You can decide what it's about, but along the
Ham.
lines of the sequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy's initial plan, which was to have a different director for each movie, but all continuing the same story. Pitch me a trilogy that has 3 different directors for each movie, and why that would be good.
All right. Trilogy of like a property that already exists, or
If you want.
like
It
they're
can also just
remaking
be
it?
its own kind of story. Whatever you want, my man. I don't
My
want to restrict
man.
your
I'm
creativity.
your man.
Yeah, I've been saying my man a lot recently.
whatever you want, my man.
My man. That is a great question. I'm gonna go sci-fi on this one, and I'm gonna go
Tight, cool.
with one we haven't talked about yet. Wait, no, this is way too similar to. But give me a second, actually, because I had an answer, but then I realized
Okay.
it's too much. Kind of already exists.
Okay, I'll start pitching. I might need a little help.
Okay, let's
but
hear it.
Okay.
I'm going horror slash
Love it.
suspense.
Okay.
Let's go more
Love it.
suspense. We'll
Okay.
call it suspense. But definitely in that darker realm.
Nice.
And I
Okay.
want, and this is impossible, but who cares? Original by Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you
Setting-
can go impossibles. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Wait, why is it
Setting
impossible?
setting the state. Well, because
He dead
He died.
recently.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's Michael Jackson taking the news?
Who?
Do not do the who joke.
So Alfred Hitchcock sets the stage, okay? And it's basically a movie, again, in black and white that sets this origin story of maybe a house that's haunted or some
Or a
sort
man.
of like creepy thing that's going on in a neighborhood, okay?
Cool.
We'll
Love
call
it.
it that. Something creepy's going on in the neighborhood. good first movie it resolves. There's a little bit of a
Question mark.
but this neighborhood might not be safe forever, right? Jump in the future, modern day. The sequel is made by Jordan Peele. A new family moves into the house, and it is weird. It's still weird in very suspenseful kind of, spooky sort of intense ways, and we don't know exactly how it's going to get resolved. Okay, and that's where I'm kind of having a hard time.
Okay,
Because
I got an idea.
I've got two choices.
Yeah, I've got an idea for who could direct the third part.
That's where I need the boys.
Okay.
Hit me up.
First choice from me is the Filippo twins, who just directed Talk to Me. I think they are up-and-coming good horror directors that would do well with this little idea you've pitched.
Cool. I still haven't seen that, but I've heard that
It's really
great.
cool.
I also had a friend told me that I don't think he doesn't think I would have a good time if I went alone.
You should go alone
So
with
I'll
no
have
one
to
else
see
in
if
the
I can
theater.
find someone else. I feel like that would ruin my life.
You would not have a good time, but it would be a memorable experience, certainly.
True.
Okay. So
Okay.
that's a good option
that's-
if we're
that's
really
your
diving
pitch.
into horror.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
my-
that would be a good twist as well. Anyway, is like the suspense
Evolves
it's confirmed now. There is something supernatural. We're diving into that.
Yeah. If you go, there is something supernatural, and you want to like really kind of explore that and go into that world, it's maybe too weird, but Guillermo del Toro would be really fun.
Yeah.
Good at suspense, good at horror, really good at kind of the supernatural weird worlds type thing. But you could also go with someone like Scott Derrickson, who did Doctor Strange and Sinister, The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Very good director.
Really good with that kind of contained horror feeling. You could do something like that. That could be pretty fun if you're just kind of keeping it like in the house, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think at this point we'll say I'll go Guillermo. Actually,
Guillermo,
We're
yeah.
taking
Oh,
it
cool.
out,
That's a good one.
Cool.
and we're diving deep into this twisted
Into
lore.
like the kind of the lore of it. Yeah.
And that'll be our
For sure.
trilogy. It's
Cool.
called the Neighborhood Trilogy.
The Neighborhood Trilogy. Cool. I dig it.
Love it.
Okay, I
Love it.
have my idea solidified in my brain.
It's not going to be as good as Jared's though. 'Cause Jared's
That's
really good. So.
true.
It's just because Niall contributed 30% of it.
Well, I tried to
Exactly.
contribute to part of it, but you just ignored my idea. Anyway.
Well, it was a bad
Yeah,
one.
well, anyway, so my idea is...
Here, for more bad ideas
Hey,
from
okay.
Lucas, everybody tune in. We'll timestamp this
Take
part.
it away.
So-
Bad
We're-
We're
idea.
going to start timestamping all of Lucas's bad ideas.
That would be awesome. I would love to see you put that
so
effort
super fans of the podcast can really dive into to the
in. There are
this
plenty
part
of bad
the
ideas
podcast.
I've had. But
Yeah, it's like
Lucas Bad Wiki. is where we can post them all.
LucasBad.fandom. So this is a trilogy that already exists in this format in that 3 great directors directed the 3 different movies. But then there were subsequent films following it. But that is the Alien trilogy, which was Ridley Scott, James Cameron, and David Fincher. All of which excellent directors.
Great picks.
And,
Yeah, that's-
you know, I've heard Alien 3 is not great, but I'm still interested in seeing it because it was David Fincher's first movie. Anyway, my idea is we got Alien 1, directed by Ridley Scott. We keep that, and then instead of having James Cameron direct Alien 2, we move more into less of like an action and more into like the sci-fi feel of it, a little bit of horror maybe, suspense, as we were talking about, and we have Denis Villeneuve direct that second part, which he did
with an alien movie would be wild.
could be pretty cool, right? Because he did Blade Runner. He picked that up from Ridley Scott. So he's already had experience doing this. We have him come in, make the second part. And then this third director has listed Ridley Scott as one of his inspirations and one of the people that he looks up to a lot. And I think if Chris Nolan came in and directed the third part of the Alien trilogy with Ridley Scott, Denis, and then Chris Nolan, could be a pretty cool way. Because, I mean, we've seen, I think, a few times that Chris Nolan can do a good job with more horrific elements and suspense and sci-fi as well. I mean, Interstellar and Inception and Tenet, to an extent, are all sci-fi-ish stories. So you throw them in an arena like that, could be pretty cool. Could be pretty,
Could be sweet.
pretty,
Pretty
cool.
cool.
Pretty.
Because I do think the problems with Dark Knight Rises are not Christopher Nolan's fault. It's just the fault of the
Our stars.
Heath Ledger dying, because he was going to be in part 3 of that trilogy.
Gotcha.
It was going to be Bane and Joker versus Batman, which would have been pretty cool if you ask me.
Classic
it was
team up.
Bane.
Bane and
Bane and
Scarecrow
Joker
Scarecrow
and
again.
Talia al Ghul.
Bane and Joker and Batman all going against each other instead of whatever, Catwoman.
Batman and
Maybe
Catwoman.
Catwoman would have been in it. Who knows?
in 3-person chess.
Yeah. 3-person chess.
Okay. So maybe this is just the fact that Lucas said this. Maybe it's the fact that I've been playing a lot of Starfield. But I also am going to set mine in space.
Nice.
Good.
Is it
actually,
original
no, I'm not.
trilogy or is it a rehash?
It's original.
Nice.
But here's the thing. It's not going to be set in space. It's going to be set on different planets.
Ooh.
What it is it's going to be an intergalactic police force buddy comedy movie.
Oh, interesting. Kind of like
like buddy cops,
like Men in
So,
Black
like,
that are going
or
in-
22 Jump Street in space.
yeah,
little
except
Guardians
they are the ones
mixed
going
with
to
it.
other planets rather than planets coming to them. And my directors, I feel bad because this is just 3 of my favorite directors, but they all are very capable of doing
Good movies.
buddy comedy. And that is, you have probably the first one done by Taika Waititi,
Nice.
just to get people to go,
Yeah.
you
fair.
know. Then you have the next one done by Edgar Wright. You can also have these, maybe you have Edgar Wright do it first, and the buddies are Simon Pegg and Nick
Oh,
Frost.
fun.
Yeah.
Which also Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright are working on a new movie together
Really?
right now, according to
Oh,
Simon
that's
Pegg.
Okay.
sweet.
He
they
said,
writing
yeah,
it
we're
together?
not done. Yeah, he said they've been writing it.
Nice. Is that going to be
so-
before Baby Driver 2, maybe?
I don't know. I have
They're
no
making
idea.
a Baby Driver 2.
I
Yeah.
still don't buy it. Like there are multiple sources that say it's happening, and I still
I think
don't
he
believe
has said it a couple times.
Don't
it. I
believe
know,
him.
and I don't believe. I
From
don't
the
buy
horse's mouth, you don't buy it from him.
It. Yeah. Why would I? Anyway,
And 3.
you have Edgar Wright do the second one. Third one, you have the Coen brothers,
Oh.
who have
Interesting.
an
Could be fun.
amazing ability to write and direct that like super fast-paced dialogue. And the idea would be basically every movie is the first 2 movies are kind of just seemingly separate incidents on separate planets. So they're the same characters but in totally different environments with totally different characters. And then the third one, conflict, maybe you either kind of reveal or you have a through line of like they're investigating a certain crime organization or whatever. And the third one's where they really kind of go up against the kingpin of it, which is where it gets a little more serious and maybe a little more involved. Still buddy comedy, but you have the Coen brothers take care of that because I think of the 3 of those directors, the Coen brothers are the best at having comedy next to a really deep and well-developed story.
Yeah.
So
I'd say I love that if we keep in all 3 movies the writers are all 3 directors or 4 directors.
yeah,
Oh,
if
nice.
if they
Yeah.
all
If they all contribute
come
to the
up with it
dialogue
together and
tone
conceptualize.
like how the
100%.
banter works and they all understand it in that through line, 100%. Give
Yep.
them each artistic freedom to tell their part of the story the way they want to. That'd be really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I agree.
It'd be sick. And then you give them different planets so that they can really have full control over the visual design of it and how things look, not just like, okay, this is the way the world looks and now it's that way, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
while we're in a kind of pitch me mood,
Are we in that
which
mood?
we're always in.
Yeah, we are.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at one last question for you boys.
Huh.
And that question
Can't
is,
wait.
take a trilogy. We've talked a lot about trilogies that kind of fall flat in one movie or another or something like that. And I want you to just take out the movie that's bad or problematic and just put in a different movie that exists.
That doesn't have anything to do with the other 2 movies?
Now, I know what you're thinking. That
This is
doesn't
impossible.
sound good.
Do you have an
That's
example?
just like I do. I've got my
Ooh, let's
answer.
hear it. Let's hear it. I'm very excited.
And I'll be a little you'll have to forgive me for modifying the movie just a little bit, because
Okay.
just to make it fit. But I think you understand the heart of the question.
Yes.
I am taking a trilogy that I do like quite a bit. The third one kind of falls flat for me, and that is Star Trek.
The new one's interesting. You don't like the third one?
I don't love Beyond.
Interesting.
I'll be the first to say it. I don't love it. In fact, I
okay.
think it could be stronger. I think if Beyond was stronger, then maybe Star Trek would have come up on our list that we were talking about earlier.
Well, I think Into Darkness is the worst one of the three, personally.
No, you're wrong. Into Darkness rocks. Anyway.
Lens flare, bro. The lens flares in that.
Well, lens flares.
Lens
aside,
flares do not a bad movie make,
They don't
Lucas.
help it though either.
Well, I'll tell you what will help it. Well, nothing with that one. but by changing its sequel.
Let's hear it.
I'm taking Beyond out, and I promise I came up with this before this episode, but I'm putting The World's End as the third.
Right on. I
Oh,
love that.
cool. I love
Following
that.
Simon Pegg.
His character?
His character, as he's now back on Earth, trying to like blow off steam from all of these adventures he's gone on. He's going through stuff. His buddies are going through stuff, but the aliens are still coming for him. Something like that,
Cool.
right?
I like
Just
that.
kind of take that trilogy and make it about Simon Pegg.
Nice.
There you
So
go.
that's my
I love
answer
it.
to make anything better.
So just to clarify,
It's a good
for
idea.
because I have an idea, but does the third
Yeah.
movie that we replace also have to be a third movie, or can it be any movie?
No,
It can
no,
be
no,
any
no.
movie in the
that
trilogy.
just happened to be the one that really fit us. Could be an episode of Star Trek.
Nice.
You
So
know?
I have my pitch then. My idea is technically didn't stay a trilogy, but kind of is a trilogy, and that is
Shrek.
the X-Men First Class trilogy. Of that, Days of Future Past, and then Apocalypse. Apocalypse I like more than most people. However, definitely the weakest of the three. So I think if you replace that and put in the Avengers as the third movie in that trilogy, because Avengers does the same thing that X-Men does in that it really officially introduces heroes to the world. So through introducing the Avengers, you are also introducing the X-Men. And so there's
Cool.
going to be a little bit of a, I think we have to modify the movie for it to fit really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it
So,
doesn't make sense if we don't.
we
modify
replace
it.
the
So you could
Avengers
just
with
say
X-Men,
The Avengers.
But
Yeah, exactly.
basically it follows a similar
Keep the
story,
story
of
structure.
where we have to reveal ourselves in order to save the planet. And that is done in a really good way. Avengers 1, in case that wasn't clear as well, which is the first Avengers movie. So,
Yeah.
Love it. That's great.
thanks.
This is hard.
But you see
This is hard for me.
the charm, the heart of the question.
I love
Oh
the-
no, I love it.
I love the
I
question.
love the question.
Yeah,
I just don't
replace
want
Return of the King.
I just don't want to be.
I'll say,
I don't want to have the worst opinion.
Yeah, no. While we said the World's End, but I don't. That's not a popular movie as much as we'd love it to be.
Yeah.
So just for our audience who maybe doesn't know that one, it's part of the Cornetto trilogy that Niall's been talking about this episode, directed by Edgar Wright, that follows Simon Pegg and Nick Frost's characters, as well as an ensemble of other great comedians. And they go on a pub crawl, and throughout the movie, people start acting very suspicious, kind of like they might not be from this world.
What?
Oh.
And so having a movie like that, which is very much, I think, in the spirit of Star Trek, where each episode of the show is very much, we go to a planet, things are strange, there's some conflict, we resolve it, right? Have it be, we're back on our planet, things are fine, and then it gets strange, there's conflict, and then we resolve it. I think that would be a cool... And,
Yeah.
you could change the cast as well from Nick Frost and the rest to the Star Trek cast. I don't think it'd be as funny because
Yeah.
they're not
I really
as
like
good of comedians, but
I really like the idea of them, of just Scotty being the only Star Trek that's left, and the rest of them are new characters. Wow, that's
Yeah.
so bright.
Scotty's the only Star Trek that's left.
Yeah, exactly.
we'll have the rest of them in red shirts and blue shirts, but
Yeah.
no Chris
yeah,
Pine.
there you go. Oh man, I'm struggling so much. What if this?
Ooh.
Freak, no, that's bad too.
Okay, here's an
No. I've
Okay.
got it. I figured it out. Ready? Godfather trilogy.
Great.
Except
Instead of the first one.
no. Instead of the third one,
Oh, gotcha.
you have. Oh no! I just thought of an even worse one to put in. My brain was gonna go
Boss Baby 2.
My Cousin Vinny, but instead of it being a comedy, it's like a really dramatic like courtroom drama
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good
where
idea.
one of the like people who kind of bowed out of the mafia family has gone and become a lawyer but still has those family ties,
Interesting.
and they're like, we need you to defend him, and so they bring him in and he does this whole prosecuting actually, because Vinny's a prosecuting attorney.
Well, honestly, any movie like
That's a good idea.
where you take
I don't know what
even
Godfather 3
maybe
is, to be honest.
someone
It
in
could
the
be that.
family is on trial, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah,
The
it
mob
could be cool.
puts a lawyer to defend him.
Yeah, the other
you
idea
find
that
out
I had
information. It'd be cool.
as I was answering was House of Gucci.
For the third one.
Yeah, just another Italian family.
Just a
movie.
random,
That'd
just
be
for
good.
no reason.
That'd be good.
Just a movie about Italians.
I was going to
guess.
say, if you follow that idea of the court case, Goodfellas, another excellent movie, could be the third.
I was going to say I
and then
was
just replace
I was
the,
considering Goodfellas as well.
the Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro characters with the Corleone family, and then still
Yeah.
have Ray Liotta's character, but he's the one who,
Yeah, could be cool, could be
don't know if you
good.
guys have seen
I think
Goodfellas.
maybe mine's the best idea of the three.
It might be,
Yeah.
and that's why
Lucas
we
is the
saved it
worst.
for the last part of the podcast. That's the taste we want to leave you on.
a
This
good,
week.
Hey,
a nice
yo.
warm, yummy taste instead of a cold, disgusting, yucky,
Cold
sour,
and
bad
Sour.
taste
like bad milk.
of bad milk.
Ugh.
We want to give
We
you
wanted to leave you with
warm,
a spicy ghost pepper on pizza taste.
so
Yeah,
good
It's
to
just
feel.
actively attacking my whole. I almost got up multiple times in this
To
episode
burst?
just to run into a separate room.
To burst with fluids.
Yeah. Well, don't ever say that again. End of the podcast.
End of the
So
podcast,
we are
so-
going to give a quick shout out to Kel,
From who?
my mom. And this shout out to Kel is coming from Michael Polonsic, Easy Law, Britton Inkley, Riley Allen, Ian James Martin, and Hannah Steve. It means so much to my mom that you shout her out. And
means a lot
if
to
you
me,
don't
too.
continue
Means a
to
lot to me,
do
too.
so, our whole family might wither away.
Guys, if you're interested in supporting our podcast, you can give us a trilogy of dollars every week. Not every week,
Nice.
every month.
You can give us every week if you
week.
want for
You
fun.
can give us a trilogy of dollars whenever you want. But that's right, only $1, $2, $3 a month can get you exclusive bonus content like our post credits, which you got a little taste of this episode.
That's true.
Go
Go to
Patreon.
patreon.com/mancavemovienight to start your subscription and start the next level of your relationship with us.
And
We're
with
really excited to see where it
Kel.
takes us.
Ooh, and with Kel.
And with Kel.
That's the most
Yeah.
important part. But if not, we appreciate you for listening. We appreciate you for listening, and we appreciate you for listening. So we will see you next week. Next time you're listening.
On another Man Cave Movie Night Monday.